Hello, my favorite people of all time. This is your host, Gabriel Garcia, otherwise known as the Wandering Quill. Today we are doing another book impressions, and this one I am excited to show you. Now, if you've been following my podcasts on Anchor, or more recently subscribed to my channel, you know I did an interview a while ago with a man named Rob Shackleford. And in that interview, he talked about his book that's part of a series called The Traveller. Now, if you listened to that video, you would have seen my excitement of The Traveller, especially Traveller Inceptio, which is the first in the trilogy. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm a big fan of history as well as science fiction. And I got a copy of the book. Now, I haven't read the book yet, but definitely from the cover and the descriptions, this book is going to be amazing. Now, as I said, I'm a huge fan of history, and I love science fiction, as well as a little bit of mythology. And why I love this book in particular is the synopsis of the book. If you were sent 1,000 years into the past, would you survive? Traveller Inceptio describes how the transporter is accidentally invented and becomes public knowledge when it sends a subject 1,000 years into the past. A special forces team of travelers is then selected and trained with the intent to send them to Saxon England to explore what could be a very dangerous period of history. From the beaches of Australia to the forests of Saxon England, Traveller Inceptio reveals how travelers discover that they need a lot more than technology to survive the trials of early 11th century life. Boom! I'm instantly sold. Now, if this kind of sounds familiar, it should. If you saw the movie Time Travel, or read the book by Michael Crichton, the same author who made Jurassic Park, it's kind of very similar in terms of the process. But this is where the Traveller Inceptio is vastly different. Now, in the interview I had with Rob, he discussed how if you did send back people to the past, especially if it's a particular period in human history, you can't send your typical Special Forces team. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, if you're sending a Special Forces team to 11th century England, best bet you would want your team to look very similar to the general population of 11th century Saxon England. Same thing if you sent them to 8th century Byzantine Empire or 3rd century Carthage. You want your Special Forces team to look like the demographics of the people that they're going to interact with going back in time. And I think that's very interesting. No one really considers that or takes that into consideration. Not to mention also the language. You want also to sound and speak as if you're from that time. So Rob definitely went deep into the story, trying to get all the research done, trying to figure out what was the specific language spoken in 11th century Saxon England. And honestly, that just sells me on the story. And I cannot wait to read this. And if you want to hear my official book review impression of this, head over to my Anchor where I'll be reading the first few chapters of this story. But for right now, just from the cover, just from the synopsis, and the overall expectations, this is easily a 5 out of 5 quills for me. That may be biased, but I love history. And this book, to me, this screams me all over it. Thank you all for joining me on another episode of Tales from the Wandering Quill Book Impressions. I will see you all later.